Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum viewers. Today is my fourth appearance before you. I believe that by now you must be quite familiar with me. You know my name, Muhammad Nazim. In my last 3 lectures, I introduced you sufficiently about communication skills. I believe that you must have picked up the threads and might as well have already started practicing. If you have, go and talk to your friends and ask them one question. Are they finding some change in you? If they say yes, that means you are benefiting from what I am discussing with you. It is important that you start picking up the threads right away and learn the art of communication, because once you pick it up, you are going to improve over a period of time. And by the time we finish all these lectures, you will be sufficiently skilled in this art which is going to help you in your personal and professional life. Let me quickly recap what I covered in the last 2 lectures. Remember, in the second lecture, I talked to you about intrapersonal communication. And intrapersonal communication, I said, this is communicating within yourself. This is the communication where the idea germinates. The idea comes into your mind. You encode and you give it in the shape of a message. This is the initial phase which is involved in the whole communication process. In my last lecture, I talked to you about interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication takes place between 2 persons. You interact with people, you have a dialogue, you exchange viewpoints, and that is where the process of intrapersonal communication comes into play as well. Remember that when I talked about interpersonal communication, I said there are 3 elements involved in the process of interpersonal communication. One, that when you are talking to your friend, to your colleague, it is first the intrapersonal communication which you're doing within yourself. Second, the person whom you're talking to as well is indulging in intrapersonal communication. Then the third element, the overriding element, is the interpersonal communication. So when this communication takes place between 2 people, when interpersonal communication takes place, then there is element of intrapersonal communication taking place simultaneously. So keep in mind this mechanism, this whole communication process, because when we'll be talking about the communication taking place in an organization, we must keep in mind that while you negotiate, while you interact with people, while you are having a dialogue, whether it's in a small meeting or one-to-one meeting, this whole 3 mechanisms of intrapersonal and interpersonal communication will take place. Let's look at the structure of today's lecture. I'm going to talk to you about the various levels of communication. Then I'll be talking also about the whole communication process. How does it take place in the organization? Before I do that, let me talk to you about certain guiding principles which you must be familiar with, because that will facilitate your whole process of the communication taking place between people and within the organization. Let's see the first guiding principle. People are not mind readers. They judge you by your behavior and not by your intent. When I say people are not mind readers, I mean that people cannot read your mind. People cannot see, cannot judge, cannot establish what is happening within yourself. That's what I mean is, interpersonally what is going on, people cannot establish it. So people, they will never be able to know what is going on in your mind. They would only be making judgment. They will be only assessing, and that is through your behavior. What is behavior? Behavior is an expression of your thoughts, of your feelings, of your emotions. These three elements, when taken expression, it's your behavior. That's reflected in the behavior, the way you interact with your people. That's where you interact within your community. That's how you behave people within an organization. Of course, the behavior is tempered by your experience, by your beliefs, by your customs, by your traditions. But basically, it is within yourself, these three elements which will take shape in the form of a behavior. But then behavior changes because people from different environment, from different experiences, people from different beliefs, they behave differently. So keep in mind, when you are interacting, when you are entering into interpersonal relationship, people will not be able to understand, to judge what you are thinking. They will assess you from your behavior. So behavior is very important. If you control your behavior, then you can control the minds of the people. But again, keep in mind that behavior is also an expression of your motives behind. What is the motive behind which derives your behavior? If your motives are different, then your behavior would be different. So keep in mind that the first guiding principle is that people cannot read your mind. They will only be judging you by your behavior, and you need to know, you have to learn how to control your behavior. And behavior is not your intent. It is only how you interact with people, taking the experience, taking the expectations with you, and giving it a shape of how you interact with people. Second guiding principle. A word is like an arrow. Once out of the bow, never returns. तीर की मानंद है लफ्ज जो एक दफा निकल गया वापस नहीं आ सकता. बड़े बूढ़े बुजुर्ग हमें अक्सर कहा करते हैं कि बोलने से पहले सोचो, फिर तोलो, फिर बोलो. मतलब यही है. अगरचे मैं पहले कह चुका हूं कि words have no meanings. Words actually are in people. Meanings are not in words. Meanings are in people. So, meanings log attach karte hain, but still, words are important at the same time. People, if they are not judging you by your context, they might be mistaken, they might be misguided by the words. कभी अगर आप किसी को कहते हैं, तुम तो बहुत बेवकूफ हो, तुम्हें तो पता ही नहीं, तुम्हें तमीज नहीं. Now you may not be meaning that, but the self-image is injured, and then the person immediately reacts to the words, although you never meant that. Theorists कहते हैं, there's always somebody who knows better than you what you meant by your message. Very strange. बात मेरे दिल में है, मेरे दिमाग में है. How can an outsider tell me what is that I meant by the message? Because people will claim, people will emphasize that, well, they've got more experience, they're more learned, they know much more than you, and they know what you meant by what you said. So this is the dilemma of this guiding principle, that you have to be careful. Although, as I said earlier, that words have no meanings, but yet careful in using words, because people will misinterpret those words, and they will not go to the contextual reference, which I keep on saying, that किस पैराए में, किस अंदाज में आपने वो लफ्ज को express किया है, मगर people will somehow stick to the words what you have said, and that might relationship might be hampered, relationship might be disturbed. So it is important that ये second principle, आप guiding principle याद रखें कि words के इस्तेमाल को बहुत carefully pick करें, choose करें, and see the situation where you are using the words, because people will judge you by your vocabulary, by in what environment you are using, in what situation you are using that word. Third guiding principle. We don't exchange ideas. We exchange symbols that stand for ideas. मैंने आपको कहा कि ये symbols हैं जो कि आपकी जिंदगी में important हैं. अभी मैंने आपसे कहा symbols क्या? Words हैं. But symbols को आप किस तरीके से interpret करते हैं? Like, in example, interpersonal communication में जब मैं किसी के साथ फेस टू फेस इंटरेक्ट करता हूं तो मुझे इस बात का ख्याल रखना पड़ता है कि अगला बंदा जो मेरी बात को सुन रहा है वो उसको कैसे इंटरप्रेट करेगा. मेरे सिंबल्स को, मेरे आइडियाज को जो मैं ट्रांसमिट कर रहा हूं, क्या उसको राइट पर्सपेक्टिव में अंडरस्टैंड करेगा, राइट फ्रेम ऑफ माइंड में, राइट फ्रेम ऑफ रेफरेंस में. थियरिस्ट, जो कम्युनिकेशन के थियरिस्ट हैं, वो कहते हैं कि इंटरपर्सनल कम्युनिकेशन के बहुत सारे वेरिएबल्स हैं. ये बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड प्रोसेस है. अगर मैं जब आपसे अगर फेस टू फेस बात करूं तो मैं सबसे पहले ये अपने इंटरपर्सनली ये सोचूंगा कि व्हाट डू आई नो. पहला सवाल में होगा कि व्हाट डू आई नो अबाउट द पर्सन, अबाउट द आइडिया. मेरा उस आइडिया में मेरा कितनी डेप्थ है. सेकंड, ये आइडिया जिसके साथ मैं एक्सचेंज कर रहा हूं उसका लेवल क्या है. तीसरा ख्याल जो मेरे जहन में आएगा, सुनने वाला मेरे बारे में क्या ख्याल कर रहा है. तो मैं एज एन इंडिविजुअल, मेरे तीन इंडिविजुअल्स तीन डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव से सोच रहे हैं. आपकी साइड पे भी तीन ही इंडिविजुअल सोच रहे होंगे. तो अगर हम कम्युनिकेशन को राइट पर्सपेक्टिव में अंडरस्टैंड करें तो एक डायलॉग जो हम एक्सचेंज कर रहे हैं उसके तीन डिफरेंट एंगल्स निकल सकते हैं. तो एक वर्ड, एक सिंबल विच रिप्रेजेंट्स एन आइडिया, जिसकी एनकोडिंग आइडिया के लिए हुई है, उसको कितने पैराओं में देखा जा सकता है, यू कैन वेल इमेजिन. सो ये तीसरा प्रिंसिपल भी याद रखिएगा. और यही तीन प्रिंसिपल जब मैं ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की कम्युनिकेशन में इस्तेमाल करूंगा तो मैं इसका रेफरेंस बार बार दूंगा कि ये गाइडिंग प्रिंसिपल्स शुड लेट यू नो हाउ मच टू इंटरैक्ट, वेयर टू एक्ट एंड हाउ टू interact with people with these three guiding principles in mind. So with these guiding principles, I sum up the interpersonal communication which I had started in my last lecture. And now I'll come to the third level of communication, that is the mediated communication. Now, mediated communication is when two or more people use a mechanical or electrical channel to transmit or receive messages. For example, telephone, radio, TV, etc. Now, in this communication process, which is very common these days, communication between people take place through television as it is taking place now. Or you can use a telephone and communicate. Mediated communication में channel जो है वो या मैकेनिकल है, या इलेक्ट्रिक है, या इलेक्ट्रॉनिक है. मैकेनिकल, you're using a telephone. What is the drawback in mediated communication? I cannot on a telephone immediately see the expression. सारी communication verbal हो रही है, through words हो रही है. Contextual element गायब है उसके अंदर. लिहाजा मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग्स के प्रोस्पेक्ट्स ज्यादा है. लेकिन ये कम्युनिकेशंस नॉर्मली इंफॉर्मेशन शेयरिंग के लिए होती है, नॉर्मली इंक्वायरीज के लिए होती है. ये इंफॉर्मेशन टू पास ऑन मैसेजेस विच हैव गॉट नो चांसेस ऑफ बीइंग मिसकंस्ट्रूड या मिसअंडरस्टूड. आपने किसी को टाइम देना है, जगह बतानी है, इसके चांसेस कम है. इट्स नॉट फॉर द एक्सप्रेशन ऑफ द फीलिंग्स, जहां आप ये ना अंदाजा लगा सकें ये किस मूड में बात की. अगरचे उसके ऊपर आप लहजे से, टोन से भी अंदाजा लगा सकते हैं. लेकिन मीडिएटेड मैकेनिकल डिवाइस जहां यूज हो, दैट इज जस्ट टू पास ऑन द इंफॉर्मेशन. यूजिंग टेलीविजन, यूजिंग इलेक्ट्रॉनिक आप कंप्यूटर्स भी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. सो मीडिएटेड के अंदर ये चैनल्स आप रेडियो टेलीविजन मोस्टली इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. लेकिन कंप्यूटर मैं आगे जाके बताऊंगा, कंप्यूटर के लिए हम दूसरा एक लेवल है. बट हियर इट इज मोस्टली टेलीविजन एंड रेडियो और टेलीफोन. देन कम्स द पर्सन टू ग्रुप कम्युनिकेशन. दिस इज ऑल्सो नोन एज पब्लिक स्पीकिंग. इस लेवल ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन में आप देखिए कि नॉर्मली अक्सर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में हम ये लेवल इस्तेमाल करते हैं. व्हेन अ सीनियर पर्सन इंटरैक्ट्स विद हिज सबऑर्डिनेट्स, one person addressing a group of people. Normally in an organization, ये बड़ा homogeneous group होता है. इसके अंदर diversity of opinion नहीं होती. इसके अंदर information sharing होती है. और इस ग्रुप के अंदर ज्यादा एक जिसे कहने interpersonal aspect इतना नहीं होता, हो भी सकता है. अगर the group is between 4 to 10, then you can have interpersonal aspect. Otherwise, when the bigger groups, like if it is beyond 10, 15, 20, 200, then that element disappears. You can get a feedback, direct feedback, but it is mostly a flow sharing of information in this part. And we will talk about detail sometimes later when we talk about what are the mechanisms involved in public speaking. That I'll take later in one of my other lectures. Mass communication, very important. Media use these days for disseminating information. Here, large, anonymous, distant audiences. You do not know. Like here, I do not know who my audience is. किस culture से हैं, किस background से हैं, किस belief से हैं. That's why I'm completely ignorant of my audience. It's only a one-way channel. Dissemination of information, nothing beyond that. लिहाजा इसके अंदर limitations हैं. Feedback later on आता है, लेकिन immediately I cannot change or assess my message which I'm transmitting. So ये सारे levels जो हैं जो मैंने अभी आपको बताए, this concludes the whole communication processes involved at various levels. And now I will take you to an organizational structure where we'll be applying all these 5 lectures and see how we can effectively use communication in an organization. Communication in organization is very important. Any organization which has to grow, which has to progress, which has to develop, which has to achieve its objective, need to have a very effective form of communication process. Communication in an organization is dependent upon the people, how skilled they are. अगर organization में skillful लोग नहीं होंगे, तो communication process ठीक नहीं होगा. We must keep in mind that organizations are run by people, and people need to be governed, they need to be managed, they need to be directed, they need to be controlled, they need to be motivated. For all these things, we need a good communication process. So today, we'll be talking in depth the various forms of communication processes going on in a business organization, and we'll see what impacts do these channels leave and how can we improve upon the communication channels. The first very important communication process which takes place in a business organization is the downward communication. When I'm talking about downward communication, I mean information which comes down from the top to the bottom. Information that flows from the top to the bottom. Information that flows from the supervisors to the subordinates junior. Now, let me straight away go to the word flow. Communication flows like water flows from the top. अगर आप अपने दिमाग में एक चीज को कंसेप्चुलाइज करें कि जिस तरह से पानी एक ऊंचे लेवल से नीचे लेवल पर आता है, it has to reach its end where it is meant to reach. The same way, communication has a direction. The man at the top, whosoever the boss is, chief executive officer, the branch manager, your immediate boss, has certain instructions which he or she wants to pass on to his or her subordinates. Then that information must trickle down to the lowest level where that information is supposed to reach. This is the basic essence, the basic philosophy involved in the downward flow of communication. एक और imagine कीजिए कि imagine your heart in my body. My heart acts like chief executive officer. And the heart pumps the blood throughout my body through the arteries. This is a downward flow. The blood is flowing to different parts of the body. Why? Why do we need that? Look at the tip of my finger. The blood even reaches here. It is coming down from the heart, reaches here. This is the ultimate destiny of the blood. If the blood doesn't come here, then I will lose sensations. My finger will feel the pain. My finger might stop functioning. The functioning of all the parts of my body is dependent on the flow of blood. What is flow? It is the information which the blood carries. It is the nutrition which is bring to various parts of the body. अगर न्यूट्रिशन कहीं ब्लॉक हो जाएगी तो मेरे बॉडी फंक्शंस सही फंक्शन नहीं करेंगे. Exactly the same way. Imagine the same way in an organization. अगर इंफॉर्मेशन फ्लो डाउनवर्ड सही नहीं कर रही, वो वहां नहीं पहुंच रही जहां उसको पहुंचना चाहिए, मैल फंक्शन करेगी. लिहाजा इमेजिन करते हुए कि इंफॉर्मेशन को अपनी डेस्टिनेशन तक परफेक्टली जैसे हमने प्लान किया पहुंचना चाहिए, दिस इज व्हाट द फ्लो ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन इज ऑल अबाउट. इंफॉर्मेशन फ्लो डिफाइन रोल्स. जैसे मैंने आपको कहा कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में मुख्तलिफ लोग हैं, मुख्तलिफ रोल्स अदा कर रहे हैं. सम आर मैनेजर्स, सम आर सुपरवाइजर्स, सम आर लेबर. एट डिफरेंट लेवल्स वो काम कर रहे हैं. उनके फंक्शंस डिफरेंट, उनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज डिफरेंट, उनसे हम एक्सपेक्ट आउटपुट डिफरेंट कर रहे हैं. लिहाजा वी नीड टू इन्फॉर्म दैम, we need to train them, we need to guide them, we need to tell them what to do and how to do, and at the same time how to improve upon and achieve the objectives we want to achieve. So information flow basically define करती है various objectives. अब ये objectives हम मुख्तलिफ तरीकों से उन तक पहुंचाते हैं. and जैसे मैंने आपको कहा था कि जब ब्लड आपकी पूरे जिस्म में फ्लो करता है तो कीप इन माइंड हर जिस्म के हिस्से को उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट के मुताबिक, उसकी नीड के मुताबिक नरिशमेंट मिलती है. आई वुड से इमेजिन द सेम वे इंफॉर्मेशन ट्रिकलिंग डाउन फ्रॉम द टॉप टू द बॉटम डज नॉट नेसेसरली हैव टू बी द सेम फॉर ईच कैडर. निचले सतह पे जो बंदा काम कर रहा है उसके लिए शायद थोड़ी अमाउंट में इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए मुकाबले उसके जो कि एक मैनेजर है. तो ये जो सिफ्टिंग है, ये जो इंफॉर्मेशन की डिवीजन है, ये जैसे जैसे ट्रिकल डाउन नीचे करती है अकॉर्डिंग टू द नीड एंड डिजायर वो डिस्ट्रीब्यूट इंफॉर्मेशन होती. ये परफेक्ट सिस्टम में जहां का एक परफेक्ट नेटवर्क ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन फ्लो जहां डिटर्मिन कर लिया जाए, वहां अकॉर्डिंग टू द नीड्स एंड रिक्वायरमेंट्स ऑफ द पीपल वर्किंग एट वेरियस लेवल्स इंफॉर्मेशन डिसेमिनेट की जाती. आपने देखा होगा ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में अक्सर लोग कंप्लेन करते हैं कि हमें इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं मिल रही. परहैप्स उनको रिक्वायर्ड इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं मिल. कुछ लोग कहते हैं कि इंफॉर्मेशन ब्रेक डाउन है, इंफॉर्मेशन गैप है. दैट्स द फ्लॉ इज they have to assess how much information they need and what quality of information they need. So information flow की एक सबसे ज्यादा जरूरत सबसे important requirement है to determine and define the quantity of information according to the roles each one has to perform at various levels. Now, what are the channels used for this information flow? These channels are speeches, meetings, memos, newsletters, etc. Speeches, आप मुझे कहेंगे कि speeches काय के लिए? Because in an organization आप देखिए कि normally पेपर वर्क बहुत होता है. मेमोरेंडम्स ऊपर से नीचे आ रहे हैं, नीचे से ऊपर रिपोर्टें पहुंचाई जा रही हैं, सुबह शाम मीटिंग्स हो रही हैं. मैंने कहा कि जब फ्लो कहीं ऑब्स्ट्रक्ट हो जाए, फ्लो कहीं डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सही नहीं, then you need to find different channels. In a normal working organization, chief executive officer would lay down certain procedures, will get some manuals made, कुछ ड्यूटीज असाइन करने के लिए उनके मैनुअल्स बना देंगे. ये सारी चीजें ट्रिकल डाउन नीचे होती हैं. लोगों को कहा जाता है कि इसको पढ़ लें और अपने अपने रोल्स को अंडरस्टैंड करें. What happened in organizations is that people have a tendency not to read. Everything is laid down in the manuals. Everything is laid down in procedures. Everything is laid down in the methodologies you have to adopt. What happens is that we do not follow them word by word. Because of that, flow of information सही नहीं पहुंचती. और जब flow of information सही नहीं पहुंचती, फंक्शनैलिटी में फर्क आ जाता है. तो जहां पेपर वर्क ऑब्स्ट्रक्ट हुआ, जहां इंफॉर्मेशन सही नीचे नहीं आई, यू नीड टू हैव स्पीचेस. आपने देखा होगा इसीलिए बाज दफा द टॉप मैन वांट्स टू इंटरैक्ट विद पीपल डाउन बिलो. आपने देखा होगा ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में मैनेजर्स दे मीट, फॉर्मल उनकी मीटिंग्स होती हैं. दे हैव गॉट द मिनट्स सर्कुलेटेड. फाइन इफ द मिनट्स आर वेल अंडरस्टूड. If they're not, then they meet together and they have a face-to-face interaction. Interpersonal communication वहां काम आती. But mostly in organizations, oral communication and written communication, ये according to the need, are implemented. Oral जहां ज्यादा होती है, वहां कुछ चीजें रिकॉर्ड पे लाने की जरूरत होती है. उसके लिए हम written communication इस्तेमाल करते हैं. Now, all these channels which are being used, they increase the motivation and efficiency. Why do we need increasing the motivation of the people? Because in an organization, while everybody is working according to a set pattern, it has to be taken care of simultaneously that people keep on having interest in the personal growth and the growth of the organization. अगर एक शख्स एक ही पोजीशन के ऊपर पिछले 10 साल से काम करता रहे और वही स्टीरियोटाइप किस्म का काम करता रहे, and there is no scope of expanding his skills, there is no growth in his financial intake, there is no scope in his professional growth, तो stagnation आ जाती. It is important for managers then to interact and keep on motivating, telling them that if they take interest, they will have a growth in their personal, professional life, and at the same time, उनकी efficiency भी increase होगी. ये एक continuous process है जो कि downward flow में आपको continuously monitor करना पड़ता है to see that the right amount of incentives are given to the people and they are all the time motivated to work harder and longer hours so that they say that it is in their own personal interest. And when they are personally involved, personal interest, the organization as well grows. Another important thing in communication is that we have to lay down clear job directions and safety rules. Why clear job directions? Because it is important that for the personal safety and for the personal security of the people, we must provide a good working environment. इसके लिए अगरचे बहुत सारे safety manuals lay down किए जाते हैं, लेकिन at the same time we have to keep monitoring, keep interacting with people and see that they are practicing the safe working procedures. Take for the case an example. अगर कोई hazardous environment में एक laborer काम कर रहा है, he is having all toxic fumes around, and if he is not using face mask, then we have to educate him, inform him that this is a wrong method of working in that environment. We have to teach that person. We have to provide safety equipments. कोई तेजाब को हैंडल कर रहा है, safety goggles देना उसके लिए जरूरी है. It is in the interest of the organization to see that the person working wears the safety goggles. People are working where the construction is taking place. Hard hat is important. So ये सारी चीजें हम, और आपको पता है हमारी कई दफा लेबर uneducated होती है. They're not informed what to use and how to use. So this is through the information that we train them, we provide them the information, and we tell them how to work in a safe, secure environment. Downward communication also provides facts about organizational strategy, products, and future goals. Keeping in mind that everything is going very smooth, enough of motivation, everybody is observing safety rules, everybody is working very efficiently, personal growth भी हो रही है, organizational growth भी हो रही है. Still, people will like to know कि हमारी organization किस तरफ जा रही है, हमारे products की acceptability है कि नहीं, हमारे future goals क्या हैं. क्योंकि we are living in a world of a cutthroat competition. बहुत ज़्यादा competition हो रहा है. And there are similar organizations working within the vicinity. We have set up our own business center. You might lose your people. They might go in for a quick financial gain, for a higher professional position. इसलिए आपका employee किसी भी level के ऊपर needs to know future growth कितनी है, कहां तक वो जा सकता है, हमारी कंपनी का फ्यूचर क्या है. Is it going to grow? Is it a growing company? प्रोग्रेसिव कंपनी है कि नहीं, नए प्रोडक्ट्स आ रहे हैं कि नहीं, क्योंकि वक्त के साथ साथ प्रोडक्ट्स जो हैं वो ऑब्सलीट हो जाएंगे. नई टेक्नोलॉजी आ रही है, बेहतर टेक्नोलॉजी आ रही है, सेफर प्रोडक्ट्स आ रहे हैं. लोगों को, एम्प्लॉइज को, वर्कर्स को, मैनेजर्स को, they all need to know this information. Where does this information come from? From the top man, the top chief executive who is planning, जो मैक्रो लेवल पे प्लानिंग कर रहा है, the board of governors, investors, जो कि इंटरेक्ट कर रहे हैं, नई टेक्नोलॉजी ला रहे हैं. You need to transfer this information at all levels. अगर ये डाउनवर्ड फ्लो से ये इंफॉर्मेशन ट्रांसफर नहीं हो रही, if it is not percolating, percolate means getting distributed at every level, people would not know where the company is going. They would not know what is their future. So it is important कि ये information flow होती रहे. Growing organizations वो हैं जहां all the employees are well informed. Information, that's why is the lifeblood of an organization. इसके ऊपर जब भी कोई कोताही होगी, somewhere you will see the symptoms. Typical example मैंने बॉडी की थी. Keep in mind, wherever you work in an organization, keep in mind it's a body structure. जैसे आपके अपने जिस्म के मुख्तलिफ हिस्सों को नरिशमेंट चाहिए, उसको कंप्लीट इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए. मेरे इस हाथ को इंफॉर्मेशन है, मेरा ये हाथ क्या कर रहा है, इस हाथ को इंफॉर्मेशन है कि मैं कहां खड़ा हूं. So this is the information which is being transferred throughout my body, and this is the center of the information source which is transmitting this throughout my body. Just the same way, an organization, a business organization is a living center like a human body. अगर हम इसको अंडरस्टैंड कर लें कि डाउनवर्ड फ्लो ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन कितनी इंपॉर्टेंट है और इसके लिए डिफरेंट मराहिल पे, डिफरेंट स्टेजेस के ऊपर किसी किस्म की ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन नहीं आनी चाहिए. हर बंदा हर लेवल के ऊपर परफेक्टली काम करे एंड शुड नॉट हाइड और शुड नॉट टेम्पर विद द इंफॉर्मेशन विच इज नीडेड एट वेरियस लेवल्स. अगर ये हम सिस्टम इंट्रोड्यूस कर देंगे, अगर ये फिलॉसफी हम किसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में इंट्रोड्यूस कर देंगे, you will have a perfect organization, smoothly working, healthy people, growing organization, expanding economically. At the same time, people would be very happy and very cooperative. Lastly, I will say, downward communication helps employees perceive what is important, gives them a sense of direction, and tells them what leadership is doing. जैसे मैंने अभी कहा आपसे कि टोटल पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हर लेवल पे एम्प्लॉयज के पास होना चाहिए. उनको पता होना चाहिए कि मेरा चीफ एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफिसर ऊपर बैठकर मेरे लिए क्या सोच रहा है. उनको पता होना चाहिए कि मेरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन मेरी वेलबींग के लिए क्या काम कर रही है. पीपल एट ऑल लेवल्स, नो मैटर इलिटरेट, नो मैटर सेमी स्किल्ड, नो मैटर perfectly professional, all need to know where do they stand in an organization. Leadership is responsible for transmitting this information down below to every nook and corner of an organization, to every individual. And how to do it? We have to set systems. We have to train our managers. We have to train our immediate bosses at all levels so that they interact continuously with people and keep them informed, letting them know through speeches, through meetings, through memos, dialogues, direct or indirect, but communication of downward flow should be continuous and should be rich enough so that people know exactly where do they stand in an organization. Now, after the downward flow of information, this is not complete. Everything has come down to the lowest level. They know what the higher management wants. But at the same time, the top man is also interested in knowing, are they achieving what they want to achieve? For this, we have to see this upward flow of information. This travels from subordinates to superiors to supervisors. अगर ये एलिमेंट कम इसको काट दें तो खून तो रगों से निकलकर इधर पहुंच रहा है लेकिन वापस नहीं आ रहा है. It needs comes back through the veins to the heart back. Just like the same way, upward communication gives back the feedback to the supervisors at all levels. Feedback इतना important है जितना ही के downward information. You have laid down procedures, you have laid down targets, you have laid down objectives. Now, how to know whether they are being properly implemented or not? How would a chief executive officer sitting at the top would know that the product is being well received in the market? How would he know that what he planned to increase the product would really be done or not? Take the case कि मैं चाहता हूं कि लास्ट ईयर मुझे 50% प्रॉफिट हुआ, इस दफा 70% प्रॉफिट हो. How would I know? Through the feedback. And the feedback from down below to the top. Upper management needs information about production performance, marketing information, financial data. और ये नीचे से ही आती है. अगर नीचे से इंफॉर्मेशन ऊपर नहीं पहुंचेगी, they will never be able to plan ahead. They will never be able to know how much the money is there for expansion. They would not be able to know whether production targets are achieved or not, whether financial situation is healthy or not. They would not be able to know that the marketing impact क्या है, marketing feedback क्या है. इस सारे systems के लिए हमारे पास laid down procedures हैं. Feedback. People working in marketing department, they go into the fields, assessment करते हैं, लोगों से opinions लेते हैं, they send it back to the higher management. Yes, these are the flaws. This is how our products are being conceived, are being looked at by the people outside our company. This is what our competitors are doing. We have to do differently. ये सारी information feedback के through आती है. इसके लिए हम बहुत सारे channels इस्तेमाल करते हैं. वो मैं आपको later on बताऊंगा. लेकिन for the time being, let me tell you कि other than the production, marketing, finance, there are other things the top man needs to know beyond production that are interest to employees. Those things have to be communicated to the higher management as well. निचले लोग जो कि lower strata पे काम कर रहे हैं, they're doing very well in production. They're doing very well in putting extra labor, extra effort to give the best possible output. But at the same time, they want to know that they enjoy a better quality of life. They want to know that what is the higher management doing, and if they are not doing, then they send back their grievances as well. ये grievances भी उनको पता चलती हैं through the feedback. लोग safe environment में काम नहीं कर रहे, accidents हो रहे हैं. अगर इनको feedback के जरिए ऊपर ना पहुंचाया जाए, the senior management would not know whether the safety manual procedures are working or not. अगर लोग productivity increase करते वक्त slackness show कर रहे हैं, absenteeism है उसके अंदर, लोग आ ही नहीं रहे, लोग बीमार बहुत हो रहे हैं, then they have to find out what's the problem. Maybe somewhere in the middle management responsible for passing on the information is not working well. ये feedback से पता चलेगा. जिस department के अंदर, जिस unit के अंदर अगर जो predict किया है उसके मुताबिक results नहीं achieve हो रहे, वो हमें feedback के through पता चलेगा. और that will indicate whether the downward flow of information is being effective or not. Feedback ये बताएगा कि लोग जो manual of procedures हैं उसको follow कर रहे हैं कि नहीं, क्योंकि लोग नई techniques इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं या they are sticking back to the old techniques. And that's where we will get to know whether we can attain the new targets or not. We will at the same time be able to know लोग खुश हैं कि नहीं, उनमें कोई grievances तो नहीं, वहाँ labor problem तो नहीं आ रही, लोग एक दूसरे के साथ friction तो नहीं, coordination है कि नहीं. All these things we will be knowing through feedback. Upward feedback reflects what lower level employees are thinking. Lower level also gives a reflection कि senior management क्या काम कर रही. They also give an impression कि हमें कहीं दूसरी organization में opportunities देखनी चाहिए कि नहीं. It also reflects that वहाँ लोग rumor mongering पे believe कर रहे हैं कि नहीं. So feedback gives a clear picture of what the lower level people are thinking. देखिए, a man who is sitting at the top normally tends to be insulated, वो isolate हो जाता है, because उसके और lower level के दरमियान काफी stratas होते हैं managers के. Whatever information flows from down below normally does not reach in the same fashion. It's an irony of the feedback that information does not reach to the top exactly the same way lower level employee wants to tell. लिहाजा जहां filters लग जाएं, वहां ऊपर वाली management को देखना पड़ता है कि problem कहां से आ रही है. And this feedback will give an indication whether the upward flow is smoothly working or not. This will also tell that whether अगर वहां कोई discontentment, वहां कोई labor problem, unrest नहीं है, तो इसका मतलब है downward flow is working very well, and likewise the feedback is very good too. ये feedback जो है, upward feedback, इसके लिए one thing is very important, that supervisors will have to interact periodically with their juniors, and they will have to collect feedback which is essential for the employee's benefit. When I say periodic interaction, this could be one-to-one or person-to-group communication, जिसका अभी मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले आपसे जिक्र किया. Supervisors के लिए periodic interaction बहुत जरूरी है, or supervisors could be senior managers, executives, and even the chief executive officer. अब चूंकि ग्लोबलाइजेशन का जमाना है, you must be knowing at times that if your parent company is somewhere outside your country, you must have heard vice president visiting that country, interacting with people. Why? This is the new style of management. Although the top man sitting somewhere on any other continent is getting the feedback through the reports, telephonically, written documents, reports as well, but still he or she wants to interact directly and find out first-hand information. That builds the confidence of the top manager and the lower rank officers and the employees, and at the same time correct factual information. लिहाजा ये periodic meetings, चाहे तो immediate bosses की हो, चाहे senior managers की हो, top executives, this is very essential. While these things are going on, one thing has to be kept in mind, that feedback will give a very good indication of what the people are thinking about their financial component, financial salaries, financial compensations, pay and benefits, problems, complaints, rumors. These are discussed through the feedback. अक्सर ऐसा होता है कि in any organization, people spread rumors which might have no basis at all, but that spreads discontentment, unrest amongst people, और वो written documents से resolve नहीं हो सकते. For that, direct interaction is important. For that, it is also important to find out whether people are being sufficiently paid. People might have complaints कि जी महंगाई बहुत हो गई है, हमारी पे तो पिछले 10 सालों से stagnant है, या annual increment 10% is not according to what the pay is, what the expenses are, has to be considered. People like to know what are the extra benefits the management could give. Or likewise for the decision making, for the higher management, it is important to know लोग कौन से benefits चाहते हैं, उनकी problems क्या हैं, उनकी social problems क्या हैं, उनकी family problems क्या हैं, उनको complaints किस से हैं, क्या उनको complaint अपनी immediate boss से है, क्या उनको complaint senior और higher management से है. ये चीजें जैसे मैंने कहा periodic meeting से feedback के ही through पता चलेगी. इन सारी चीजों के लिए feedback के लिए जो channels use होते हैं, reports, memos, conference, वही जो कि हम downward flow के लिए use करते हैं. There are certain set procedures for the resolution of conflicts, for the resolution of political or labor unrest, but the channels are used for these very purposes. एक चीज मैं यहाँ mention जरूर करूंगा कि feedback के अंदर जहां ये सारी चीजें use हो रही हैं, वहां we have to judge which is the most efficient way. क्या टेलीफोन से फीडबैक ज्यादा हमें इफेक्टिव मिल सकती है, या डायरेक्ट मिल सकती है, या we need to go personally and get the information first hand. This is a decision which has to be taken by the management. Then comes the lateral communication. Lateral communication is the communication which takes place horizontally. This happens amongst employees of the same rank. ये communication वहां अकर करती है जहां के reporting system ऊपर नहीं है. It could be, let's say, 16 ग्रेड के लोग आपस में बैठकर अपने प्रॉब्लम्स डिस्कस करते हैं, अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को डिस्कस करते हैं, अपने सोशल इश्यूज को, अपने हेल्थ इश्यूज को. This is at the lateral level. They want to know why a certain department is not functioning well, why the other department is functioning much better than them, than their department. So ये lateral communication से they try to find out the faults. They're trying to find out what are the impediments which they need to remove. So horizontal flow of information is at the same level, and at the same time it will be diagonal with people at different levels who have got no direct reporting system. मैंने कहा कि ये horizontally at the same level 16 के level पे, लेकिन at times a manager from one department is talking to another manager of a different department. This would be the diagonal flow of information. But these information flows happen where they just want to discuss problems of common interest. This flow speeds up information to improve understanding and coordinate for achieving goals. ये बहुत important है for organizations, because lateral के अंदर आपके common social problems हैं, आपके labor problems हैं, आपके problems हैं which are outside the production, which are outside the marketing, which may not be directly related to the organization. And for that, you need a harmony, you need a cohesion. It could be as a pressure group to force the senior management to take corrective measures. Remember, in business organizations, lateral flow of information is very important. People at one level would like to join together and work collectively. देखिए, इसके अंदर एक और बड़ा important element है, and I think we should keep in mind कि every person at all level wants to own the decision making. मैं अगर निचले level पे काम कर रहा हूं, I would like to own this organization. I must have the feeling this is my organization, this is my product. And that sense comes when we share. And when the information is shared from the top, feedback is there, and amongst ourselves, we feel that we have to cooperate. एक synchronization हम में होनी चाहिए, ताकि have that belief that we have to collectively work together to achieve greater objectives. Once that spirit of cooperation, of getting together is there, this will only be done at a lateral level, where the information which they have collected will pool together and say, yes, this time we are going to attain this target. और वो एक motivation of sense of achieving higher goals आ जाती है. This is important in the lateral. This is essential. Problem solving, job performance, assuring mutual benefits, and safety and security. ये बहुत important element है in any organization, और ये सिर्फ lateral level पे ही हम mutually achieve कर सकते हैं. Lateral level के ऊपर mostly communication oral होती है. जैसे मैंने कहा, यहाँ कोई reporting system नहीं, लिहाजा participants at whatever level of the organization they are operating, it's oral communication and mostly face to face. यहाँ आप ख्याल कीजिए interpersonal communication कितना effective role अदा करती है. This is important. Lastly, let us have a look at the communication in organization. Downward communication, see how does it happen. Flows top to the bottom. Upward goes from down below to the top. You will see the arrows, top to the bottom, bottom to the top, and then horizontally. In an organization, in a business organization, this is the structure of the information flows. And like I said, human body, the blood flows all around. The information is throughout the organization at all levels. And spreading the information necessary for each one creates a healthy environment, creates a very conducive atmosphere where people pool together and people jointly work together for the growth of the organization. At the same time, they are working for their own personal growth as well. So I would say that to sum up, what I mean here is that communication flow is important, and it is also important because we have to keep in mind that it is necessary for us, for our personal growth, and for the growth of the organization. Keep in mind now that whenever you are working on the communication flows, what is more important is downward flow has to be completely smooth and the feedback effective enough so that it could reflect what goes down comes to the top. Lastly, let me re-emphasize the importance of communication flow in an organization. You have already understood, I have dealt sufficiently in detail about the downward flow. If you are working and if you desire to work at a higher level, keep in mind the importance of the downward flow of information. This is exactly where you will be giving direction and targets and achieving your goals by being effective in the downward flow of information. You have to learn these techniques right from day to day so that when you go to a higher position, you are effective enough to see that there's a smooth working of this flow in an organization you work with. And secondly, also keep in mind the importance of the feedback. If you are very effective in setting up a good channel of downflow, but your feedback is ineffective, you will not be achieving the targets what you have planned. The whole cycle, just like the cycle of the communication process I mentioned to you earlier, this information channel of downward flow and upward flow has to be completed in a fashion that what you want to achieve at the down blow is reflected back by indicators from the people, whether they are happy, they are working together to achieve the goals. So this communication cycle, downward and upward flow, should be well worked upon, and see to it that you know the various channels, how effective those channels can be implemented in any organization. Keep in mind, oral is difficult, but at the same time, it is very effective. Written would be needed somewhere, but written has own limitations. So use the oral communication and written communication to the perfect to the perfection, so that you could get the right results you want to achieve through oral and written communications. My lectures in future too would be specifically focused on oral communications, and I think by now we have sufficiently completed the theoretical part of knowing the whole process and the mechanisms involved of the communication flow. In my future lectures, I'll be going into details about public speaking, about the art of presentation, art of interacting with people, the group discussion, and how to utilize these for the motivation of people and organizing, managing people you are working with. I suppose that you enjoyed my lecture today, and inshallah I will be coming up with more techniques and tools which I would like you to start practicing from the day one. I'm sure you are going to be effective communicators, and you will benefit from these lectures. Thank you very much. Khuda Hafiz.